In Ireland, tales of the Sidhe, or fairy folk, have been passed down orally for more than 3,000 years. And in the 11th century, many of these stories were documented in a text called the Book of Invasions. According to this medieval account of Irish history and lore, thousands of years ago, a godlike race of beings called the Tuatha Dé Danann landed on a mountaintop in Ireland. Often referred to as the Shining Ones, they are the ancestors of the Sidhe.
All of our stories relate back to the Tuatha Dé Danann. For 3,000 years at least, if not more, before that, all of the stories from mythology are all relating to Tuatha Dé Danann. They were the Shining Ones.
There is a description in the mythological material in the early Irish literature of the Tuatha Dé Danann arriving in cloud ships, arriving in dark clouds, and landing on a mountain.
There was a long poem about the arrival of the Tuatha Dé Danann. One of the lines says, "The truth was not known beneath the sky of stars, whether they were of heaven or of earth."
The Tuatha Dé Danann are not human. They're demigods, and not immortal, not infallible, not like the gods of a monotheistic tradition of any of the Abrahamic religions.
The Tuatha Dé Danann were said to be luminous beings of large stature who wielded magical powers.
The Tuatha Dé Danann had an arsenal of very technological-sounding weaponry. Lugh of the Long Arm, for example, possessed a spear that when he threw it, he could give a voice command and it would automatically hit whatever target. Then he'd give another voice command and the spear would mysteriously return to him. We have circles of light that they used to travel around Ireland upon. We have another chieftain named Nuada who lost an arm in a battle against the giants, and they were able to replace his arm.
The Tuatha Dé Danann were said to have a magical cauldron. They had a cloak of invisibility. They had spears that shot flames out.
The ancient astronaut theory tries to look at ancient stories in which magic happens from a modern perspective and determine if that so-called magic really was some type of technology. Then one has to wonder, where did that technology come from? Well, there's only one answer to this, and that is extraterrestrials.
For ancient astronaut theorists, another intriguing aspect of these stories is how similar they are to accounts of sky gods found in other ancient cultures.
The stories of, let's call them aliens, descending from clouds on tops of mountains are straight across the cultural history of human beings. Let's start with one of the earliest ones, the descent on Mount Hermon in the Golan Heights. That's where the Nephilim came down. Another, in the descent of the Anunnaki, they came from clouds.
We have other stories in Tibet and other places where these gods are coming down and they land on top of a mountain. The gods of Olympus in Greece as another example.
The stories of the Tuatha Dé Danann in these whirlwinds or clouds is something that we find in connection with deities in other parts of the world. For instance, across the Middle East, there is the concept of jinn. These are supernatural beings, very often associated with fire and light, that can appear in whirlwinds and manifest into physical form.
The fact that we have countless stories that are not just similar but identical leads me to think that perhaps all these ancient cultures were visited by the same extraterrestrials.